Hi. Welcome to week one. Welcome to the glitch. I'm Jen, your friendly farm girl philosopher, and this is week one of my new revamped. I don't know. Is it a blog? Okay. And it's Monday, so today's the mental exercise, and I'm going to go through a few things, just some definitions and some questions. And then at the end, there's going to be a challenge. So I hope you stay tuned for all that. And let's jump in. My topic for this week is tribalism. And if you don't know what tribalism is, I'm going to read you the definition. So, tribalism, according to Webster's, tribal organization, culture, or loyalty, or a strong sense of identity with and being loyal to one's tribe or group. Okay. I was taught in school that you're supposed to not define a word by its root word. So tribalism, using the word tribe in the definition, a little problematic. So I got my handy Webster's out. And definition of tribe. Wow, there's a lot of definitions of tribe. There's 7 in Webster's. And a lot of them have to do with respecting your ancestors, and that has its place in this discussion, but it's not really what I'm talking about. See the crazy cat behind me? Really, the one that's most interesting, I think is definition 3 in this dictionary. Any group of people having the same occupation, habits, ideas, etc. This is often used in a derogatory sense. So, people saying, you're just from the tribe of whatever. And what I'm really wanting to focus on is the idea of being part of a smaller and smaller tribe rather than a larger encompassing one, and how that relates to division in this nation, other nations, really. This happens all around the world. And it's, if you're in a smaller part of a bigger tribe, like a Shiite Muslim versus a Sunni Muslim, where you're both Muslims, but the Shiite and the Sunni, how many wars have they fought? Protestant Christian versus Catholic Christian. Well, you're both Christians, but how many wars have they fought? Democrat or Republican? And I'm going to go with Democrat extremist versus Republican extremist, or even Democrat politician versus Republican politician. Because most normal, everyday people who identify as Democrats or Republicans, most of us, it doesn't really impact our lives that much. There's like 25% of the country, 25-30% that's Republican, 25-30% that's Democrat, and then there's about 50-60% in the middle, 40-50%, however the math works out, that are consider themselves independents or centrists, and they don't really ascribe to one party or the other. My point is that we all identify ourselves, at least in some measure, as a member of a group. That's a normal thing. Why is it normal? Because being an individual, being alone, being on your own, it's scary. It's scary to not have not have your gang behind you, your tribe behind you, backing you up. You know, so we want to identify as part of a group, and that's a normal, not necessarily harmful thing. But why does it become divisive? Why am I talking about this as a divisive thing? Because when you get to be so much a part of a tribe, a group identity, no matter what that is, it creates an us versus them. So my group doesn't do that. Your group does that. My group does this. Your group doesn't do that. And it creates naturally a divide, which is not always harmful. But it becomes harmful when you start looking at we've got us, and then there's them over there. And when you start looking at them as less than human, you create not only a thought that us is superior, you also create the idea that those people over there, you dehumanize them. We've seen this most recently, well, not necessarily most recently, but very recently, in a certain politician calling people who supported a certain presidential candidate a basket of deplorables. That was an attempt to dehumanize the them. She was part of her group, and she wanted her group to feel superior to that group. So she called that group a basket of deplorables. The same thing happens the other way around and I see this online and it drives me nuts. That group that was called a basket of deplorables calling the other group libtards. So that's also an attempt to dehumanize. And that's also unacceptable. I think, the majority of people don't identify with either one. Or at least half. And then you've got the other half, somewhat evenly split, that do identify with one of those. And they feel the need to dehumanize the other group. So you have both groups dehumanizing each other, and it creates more and more and more of a divide. Try to fix my camera here. If you saw my setup, you would crack up. It's terrible. So, another example of this is any kind of racist slang. I mean, we can all think of something we've been called just because of the color of our skin. Something that is derogatory, something that is hateful. And that is an attempt to dehumanize that person simply based on the color of their skin. That is also unacceptable. That also creates unnecessary divide. There's also another one that's a little more subtle, and it's when people within their group, they create terminology or lingo that they have defined that isn't known to the other group, in an attempt to, number one, again, make themselves feel superior, and number two, to make conversation with the other group less possible. Part of the reason that I use this old paper dictionary, because go online and you look up things in Webster's online dictionary, and it's liable to have changed based on whichever group decided to redefine a word at a particular time. This is used a lot by liberals and the left, and part of it is because it's a very smart ploy. The conservatives and Republicans haven't really figured out how to use this tactic yet. So that's kind of interesting. So, this basic idea of tribalism and us versus them, and creating the divide and becoming more and more polarized, which is exactly what we've seen. Oddly enough, because of a president that used to be a Democrat and is now a Republican that wasn't a politician. So, everybody hated him in some sense. And the question is, should it even be overcome? I mean, tribalism is not necessarily a bad thing. I think the polarization and the dehumanization, I think that definitely needs to be overcome. Because if we're ever going to be a united country and a united people, we need to figure out how to overcome this. So, how? What are your thoughts? What do you think? I'm not really sure. I'm just here to get people to think and to try to figure out what they believe and why they believe it, and to seek truth. I'm not here because I think I have the answers. I do not. But I do want to give you a challenge, and I'm going to try to do this. It's something that I actually started trying to do a while back. Part of the reason my hair is blue, actually, because I want you to try to do something, not something that's against your character, not something that's against your moral code. I want you to try to do something that is outside of your group identity. So, blue hair doesn't really usually go with farm girl. It's just not really a thing in the farming community. It's a small thing. I admit that. I love it. But try to do something. I mean, you see some stories like the bikers that stop and buy all of the kids' lemonade at a lemonade stand. Saw that just a few weeks ago. You know, that's something that most people would think is out of their group identity, but they did it. The cop that stops and plays basketball and, you know, just enjoys time with kids in his community. Those are things that most people think is outside of that group identity. And it shows that individuals are not the group. It shows other people to think in a more complex way about who the people are within a group. If you wear a uniform or you wear biker leathers, they're more likely to look at you as an individual. You have blue hair, a lot of people assume things about me that simply aren't true. And I like that. I like to be able to take people by surprise. So that's my challenge to you. Try to think of a way that you can do something that's, again, not against your moral code, not against your beliefs, but is something that you think is outside of what most people would expect of your group. See if you can take someone by surprise. All right? And that's it for this Monday. I'll see you Tuesday. Bye.